helping you crack the code to productivity. Every Wednesday's our community.
Okay, let's start. Okay. Okay. Should we wait for a minute or just start? Just start. People are going to join, they'll join. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to week 12 of the Productivity Enhancement Clinic. It's been a long journey and we've had some interesting conversations. Today, we're going to be talking about building a customer-centric culture. A lot of people talk about customer centricity, but what I want to do is show some practical examples as to what we did and how we did it, and how and what you can take from that to make something work for you or your business or your clients. So let's start. As always, I'd start off with the framework that we use and what is the current state of play, what did we do with the current client, and then how can you apply to the business? So this is basically the same pattern that we follow. Now, when I talk about the framework, I talk about the deal framework, which is where our founding, thought process is all grounded on. We start off by saying every business needs a strategy. Now, a great strategy is needed to excel in any organization, but you need to have some strategy to start a business. So even if you're a solopreneur, you need to have a strategy to kickstart your business operations. Now, having a great strategy is not enough. You need to have employees who will execute it. Now, employees could be you or your team. Now, having a great strategy and employees is good, but without customers, there is no business. So that's the third leg of the stool. So in our deal framework, what we talk about is D is the delivery, which is the intersection between where customers and employees happens. And here, this is where any product or service is delivered, your interactions happen, your employees are able to demonstrate the knowledge, the product knowledge, the training they have to your customers. That's the D for you. Now, delivery will happen only if employees are engaged. And to understand that, employees need to be aligned with your strategy. They need to know why they are doing what they are doing and how they are doing it, and their role in ensuring that that strategy is implemented. Now, the third bit, which is A, which we call as the alignment, that comes as the intersection between your customers and your strategy. Now, if you have a great product or a service which your customers don't want, then you're actually not aligned with what the market wants, right? So alignment is about understanding your customers' told and unmet needs that you unearth to create your product or service. So the last bit, which is L, which is the leadership. Now, if you look at it, this is like a propeller. And the leadership is the one that propels the organization. And you need all these elements to ensure that the business moves forward in the right direction. So this is the pillar that we base on. Now, when we talk of customer centricity today, when we talk of customer centricity, it is not only about customers. It deals with, delivery. It deals with alignment. It deals with the leadership. But employees have a role to play, and the strategy has a role to play, because ultimately, as we said, without customers, business doesn't exist. So for us to talk about customer centricity, that was a tongue twister, wasn't it? To talk about customer centricity, we have to focus on all the elements that go into play. We've been talking about strategy, we've been talking about employees, and we've looked at customers specifically in the past few weeks. So I'm not going to go into that, but I'm going to go and dive a bit deeper from what do we mean by customer centricity. Okay, what does it mean to be customer centric? Fine. Everyone you talk about, say, oh, we are a customer centric organization or customer focused organization. It's seen more like a slogan, isn't it? It's not how you do things, It's just there. Because when you try and dig deeper, it has got to be embedded in anything and everything that you do. It's got to be part of your process. It's got to be part of your strategy. It's got to be part of your culture. And it is not just service. Because people always misunderstand that customer centricity equals great service. Yes, great service is one element of it, but that is not the be all or end all. So, for your organization to become customer centric, you need to actually embed customer centricity in how decisions are made daily. You need to understand how anything that you do impacts your team, your business, and eventually your customers. Now, even an organization has internal customers, right? So you might have people who are customer facing, but they are supported by people working within the organization. So the customer centricity approach that you adopt for your external customers has also got to be reflected with your internal customers. Because if you don't do that, then it just becomes a slogan. And what your customer wants will be shaping your priorities. And generally, that's how you do it, right? You don't put the cart in front of the horse. You actually let the horse lead it. So, awareness of what your customer wants, what their priorities are, and what do they expect from delivery, what do they expect from you as an organization, should shape how you look at customers and what you do and why you do with the strategy, your team, the training that goes behind it, everything will be shaped behind this. If you can do that, then yes, you're a customer centric organization. Now, I have worked with various organizations at various levels. Now, one chief exec of a big oil company said, you know what? Success for me is when I say customer service, people stop looking at the customer service director. Or when I say team motivation, people start just look at the HR director. Because it is not them, right? An organization is a collection of people. Your customer service gets executed beyond the customer services director. You've got to actually think about it holistically. And that's what it means to be really customer centric. Now, we've all learned about various things about loyalty, commitment, satisfaction, and so on and so forth. And in fact, I did discuss about this particular model in one of the clinics a few weeks ago. Now, when we talk about buying or making any decisions, the primary reason from our research, from the research that I have done the last 20 odd years, clearly, goes when you go to the core of what makes you do things is the fear or the lack of it that makes you act. Now, to overcome fear, we need to actually build trust. So if it's okay if you sell a product or a service, but if you're dealing with people, then you also need to demonstrate that you actually care. So when you look at this, the relationship between trust and empathy helps you overcome fear. When that happens, then you start building satisfaction, commitment, and loyalty. Now, why are these three things different? Satisfaction is something that you get at that point in time. It's like that sugar rush when you bite the first piece of chocolate, or the caffeine rush when you sip the first sip of your coffee. You feel good about it. But if the experience is brilliant, then you become loyal to that particular coffee or the shop or the brand, right? So that is loyalty. Now, people have been talking about loyalty for some time. And yes, you do need to have loyalty, but just having a satisfied customer who's loyal is not enough. You need to actually spur commitment because that actually triggers an emotional connection. We saw this and we identified different types of customers. Someone who is basically low on satisfaction, low on loyalty, and low on commitment, we call them as the eroders because they are always taking and not giving a lot. Now, you could also look at another type of commitment who basically is highly satisfied, but they demand a lot, so they drain a lot of your organization resources. Someone who's not satisfied but loyal, they keep coming, so you can't get rid of them. So they become very difficult to deal. And then some people who are satisfied but and loyal but not committed. So they will always switch at that moment when they get a good deal. They're not loyal to you. They're not loyal to your brand. They are indifferent. They are there because it is suiting their convenience. Now, if you've got low loyalty, low satisfaction, but high levels of commitment, we call them as habitual, a very posh word for saying lazy. I've got this, so I can't be bothered, kind of a thing. Then you have people who are satisfied and committed but not loyal. So I like the iPhone and I like this particular brand and I get a great deal. So I am committed to iPhone. I might be committed to iPhone, but I might not go and shop from the same brand or the same store that sells the phone. So that is where they are a chancer. They try and find the good product, the same product, but for a better price, the quality of the product is not going to change. The value or the perceived value of how they acquire it changes. So we call them as the chances. Then you have the stars who are basically not satisfied, but are loyal and committed. They keep complaining, but then when you address them, then suddenly their pain points get addressed. They become superstars. And these are the clients, these are the types of customers that you start dealing with. When you start applying it to various customers that you have dealt with in the past, you can see where they fit in. So just having loyalty or satisfaction is not good for the business, right? And when you start applying this, you see, okay, price drives people, convenience drives people, quality drives people, but that's just the starting point. That's not a differentiator. For you to actually build a relationship with the customer, for you to become customer centric, you need to win their trust. And you need to actually build that empathy. You need to show that you care. You need to show that you understand. And that becomes the glue, which then makes them feel loyal. And we've seen that 82% of customers who are loyal have an emotional connection. And you need to understand you can be satisfied but not loyal. You can be satisfied but not committed. But the aim for you is to get your customers to become satisfied, committed, and loyal. And that's where great customer service or experience begins. Now, for an organization to become customer centric, you need to go back and start looking at the emotional connections that you have. Look at the journey, look at the touch points. Where are you touching people? What is happening? So we have done a journey mapping exercise with the hospitality client. Uh, in fact, we've done it with various hospitality clients. This client stands out primarily because they went for different categories of customers. They said, okay, if it is a parent, what happens? What are the pain points that happen? How do we address them? If it is a business traveler, what are the pain points? What are the touch points that they have from a process point of view, from a people point of view? And they even went to the level of understanding what is the emotional agitation that can be caused if that touch point is not brilliantly executed. So when you start exploring things like that at that level, you build brilliant relationships with your customers, and the entire organization is customer centric. Unlike other organizations or other sectors, if you're in the manufacturing sector or if you're in pharma, you don't deal with customers. Not every department gets to deal with customers like how hospitality does. Because in hospitality, every touch point has to be with some member of the team. It could be the bellboy, or it could be the doorman. It could be the reception desk, front office, back office. It could be the restaurant. It could be the housekeeping. It could be the kitchen. The only, it could be even the finance team. It could be the sales and marketing team. It could be the branding team. So every aspect of the business in hospitality deals with customers. So the emotional connections that they have to form is immense. Unlike a traditional business, like a manufacturing business, where customers are external and you have employees we have only a handful of employees who serve the customers. The challenge is then to treat your internal customers as customers and serve them effectively and build a rationale and a purpose to help them understand why are you being customer centric and what is it that you're doing to help them to help their customers going to add value. That is how you start building things. It is about winning the heart always, isn't it? It's not the head. How many times have we said, oh, I don't want to be eating the chocolate, but you have actually bitten into it. Your heart always rules your head. You need to remember that. So you need to aim for an emotional connection. And customer centricity, the core of it is establishing that emotional connection. So it's not surprising that I've actually created this heart framework. Now, heart framework, H stands for humanizing the brand. We'll go into this a little bit deeper in the next few slides. E stands for empathizing. A stands for anticipating your needs. R is to reinforcing positive emotion. And T is for transforming the organizational behavior. Now let's look at each element specifically. The H. What do I mean by humanizing the brand? Yes, although we have classified customers into different categories, we still treat them as people with specific needs, specific requirements, and specific challenges. We don't say, oh, that customer is worth. A customer-centric culture does not say, oh, that customer is high value, low value, or whatever, but sees them as people. And what can we do to serve them? Because you can't, in hospitality setting, you don't have control on who you can choose to let in and stay in your hotel or not, right? Of course, there are extreme instances, but generally, if you book online, you walk in, you check in, you have to serve them, right? There are organizations where they actually go back and do a customer audit and remove people who are not profitable. Whereas in a hospitality scenario, that's not happening. You have to treat people as people, irrespective of whatever they pay, wherever they are coming from, it still needs to be humanized. The service has to be humanized. You have to inject warmth and personality into every interaction. Because if you don't do that, then you will not create that emotional connection, right? So what have we done where to humanize the brand? We actually have understood what are the things each segment of clients primarily require in the hospitality sector. Like I talked about parents or family travelers. I'll take two examples, the family traveler and the business person. The business person basically does not need a lot of touch points, but as a family, you need to actually be more humanized because you need to be empathetic about the children. You need to be empathetic about the parents traveling and driving and all that stuff. So you need to understand the challenges they go through even before they walk through the door of their property, of the hotel, right? So you need to understand and start addressing that. Like, for example, we got a chain of hotels to look at the parent travelers or the family travelers who actually come and visit some local attractions who travel from from for near and far. So one of the things that happens is when kids are at the back seat, and people who have kids can empathize with that. And if you're a young child sitting in the back seat, you are questioned, and are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? So that actually drives you off the wall. I mean, I've experienced it. I'm sure a lot of us have. So one of the things that the hotel did was when they arrived, the first thing they did was separate the kids and the parents and take the kids to a playing area. The parents were given a welcome drink, and they were not expected to check in because normally when you go into a hotel, you are expected to say hey, blah blah blah, share. They just took the name and then they moved the person's luggage to the rooms. I said, yeah, your room is all ready. You can go check in. You can come back later when you're freshened up. And that's what it is. So you actually start thinking small things like that and start humanizing how you touch people, right? The second thing is, how do you empathize proactively? Understand the frustration. One example that I gave you was that. But then there is another side of things, like we talk about the business traveler. The business traveler does not want their room cleaned every day. Well, some might, but most of them don't. And we found that out by asking them. And when we asked them, they said, oh, instead of that, if we can get points for our stay, which we can use and we can bring our family or it accumulates and we can do something, then that will be brilliant. So, what did we do? The client actually said, gave them a do not clean my room card which you hang in front of the room. So, which means they are enrolled for that particular program. And in hospitality, people who are here might know the one of the biggest expenses housekeeping, because it's very difficult to find people, retain people in that segment. Generally, hotels outsource it, and it is an expensive resource. And when someone says, I don't want that, but give me points, it's a much better proposition for the hotel chains or the hotels also to do that. By understanding what people want, you can feed that by providing the relevant solution. And the other thing which you also do is train your teams on emotional intelligence and being compassionate, right? And generally, when you have a clear journey map of why people do things, what is needed, the fears that drive them, how do you become empathetic? When you train your staff, it becomes easy for you to build a customer-centric culture. When someone asks a question, don't just answer the question. Try to understand the real intent behind it. Like few of our clients, where the concierge, if someone goes and asks, oh, what is it that we can do here? Not only would they say that these are the places that you should be visiting, and this is how I would go, and these are the cab companies that I would book or give them the details and say this is the ideal time to visit, and these are the restaurants that you could actually go. It typically takes this long to see this. If you're this, if you're interested in this, this is another thing that you could look at. So you start giving them more and more value rather than say, okay, take a taxi and get out. That's not what you say, right? So you're empathizing, anticipating need by creating those emotional maps. What is it people want? Look at every touch point, understand what is it from a people perspective and a process perspective that you need to be doing. Understand and address that. Use data very, 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 insightfully. I mean, don't just create data for the sake of creating data. Use it to understand what are they really telling. Like the example of the family travelers. One of the things that the family traveler does is the mom generally books the hotel. So the mom books the hotel. One of the things that she checks is how clean is the room, how clean is the bathroom, how clean is the food, what restaurant, and what food is available. So having pictures there and having understood that, then the next question that comes up is what are others talking about it? So when you hear a negative review, immediately says tend to switch off. So by addressing that and having that as part of your bookings page or rooms information page, it makes it easier for the family or the mom to see, okay, people are saying this and this is what the hotel is doing. In fact, one of our clients had a morning session where they would actually dedicate it only to the TripAdvisor and Expedia ratings, where they'll say these are the things that were said and a response would be posted and that would be posted in the web page, in the room information. So you don't lose people. By using data and by understanding the concerns and by doing something about it, you can then start personalizing experience even before they have to ask, because you start anticipating what is it that they're going to do next. And when you understand that, you start providing them with answers. So you guide them effortlessly. And one of the things that we do is basically surprise with small meaningful moments. It's either remembering the name of the children or family. So come and hey, blah, blah, blah. Did you have a good time? That kind of a thing. That actually makes the connections strong. Now, how do you reinforce it? What's the R? We design peak moments that customer want to remember. So in your stay, what are the places like food is one thing. When you're coming in as a traveler, as a family, you want to go and visit the places and the sites. So generally, it's the breakfast that actually parents would love to have. They want to fill up, their reserves with a sumptuous breakfast. So offering variety, understanding what they want, and offering it amazingly well is something that makes you feel good about it. That's thoughtful consideration. Yes, all hotels have breakfast, but I know certain hotels, they actually break big fresh croissants in the morning and bring it. And you know that it was done and it takes time, but you're happy to wait because it smells so good. The coffee is freshly brewed. So you can see that freshness coming through, which makes you feel that you're actually not staying in a hotel. And these are things people remember. How do you check in? You can make it simple. The earlier thing that I spoke about, separating the parents and the kids, that is something which is very, very thought through. It is, it shows that, yeah, I care. I care about you. I value you as a customer. I can understand the pain that you've gone through to get here. You're tired, you're exhausted. So I would like to welcome you with a welcome drink. One expects that. Suddenly, that adds more value. And if you're doing something, bring that, ensure that people understand why they are doing it. How is it going to impact them? And what is it that will be achieved as a result? Keep your customer as the core focus. And then from there, anything that you do or ask your team to do, it's got to be tied back to that. That's how you reinforce it. And be consistent. Don't, I mean, people always ask me, oh, where do you stop? When does it stop? If you're going to be doing one thing, do it properly. It's better to dig a mile inch wide and a mile deep so you can actually hit gold rather than dig inch deep and a mile wide. You're never going to get anywhere, right? And you do all this, you start transforming everything and anything that you do as an organization. You actually start building customer insights into your process, your planning, everything. We have spoken about the humanics and the mechanics. Mechanics is the process, the systems. Humanics is the people. Bringing them together is a challenge. But when you actually connect them through the clear purpose, clear view of what is the value they are adding and how it is going to impact the bigger picture, you start seeing magic happening. Don't just say, okay, customer score NPS is 7.5 or 7 or 5 or whatever, or 4 star or 5 star. Go deeper. What was the quality of your relationship? Start measuring that. And employees, don't reward them just for getting great scores. For key moments, reward them for empathy, for creativity, showing care. I mean, I have done some amazing work with a big retail chain where customer service is just beyond anything that you can describe. And it's a big it's I've heard stories where when customers actually come and said, "Oh, this kettle doesn't work. Hot water does not. It spilled all over." The first reaction of the service representative was, "Oh my God, are you okay? Did it fall anywhere on you? Did you get injured?" That was what the first question was. They didn't talk about the product, they demonstrated real care. That is where real transformation happens. And start using this to reinforce, build stories. Stories sell, facts kill. So start building a lot of stories that makes your culture significantly impactful. Now, these are some of the statistics as why you need to actually be focusing on customer centricity. I don't want to go through it, but you can see that as a significant increase or an uptake in the lifetime value or the return on investment or employee engagement when you start building a culture that is focused on customer centricity. Now, how would you do that? First thing is, I need to make this one very clear. You have customer centricity where you do things for your customer, putting the customer at the heart of everything that you do. But it is not about pleasing the customer. That's a very clear difference you need to have. It's not about pleasing the customer, but getting your customer to have memorable experiences. You cannot buy loyalty. Yes, of course, there are loyalty cards. Excuse my pun. There are loyalty cards, but it is the emotional connection that actually triggers loyalty. Don't aim for getting satisfied customers or loyal customers. Try to bring them to your party with a view to getting them to become your committed customers. And last but not least, don't automate too much because humans have to be part of the service, you know. So start looking at people as responsive, responsible touch points that you can actually use, right? And true customer, centricity, it starts with the leadership. They have to then influence how things are delivered, how things are ensured to ensure that how customers feel, how employees feel, and how do you bring all this together. And empower your teams. Because without empowerment, which I should have touched earlier, without empowerment, nothing really works. You can't say you're a customer centric organization and not empower your employees to take decisions. Even you can't say, oh, 5 pounds, I need to go back to my manager to see what it is. That is so off putting. That should not be the way a customer centric culture should be built. So, what can you do differently? In the short term, I would use something like a relationship quality measurement to understand the emotional connection. What is work? What is working? What is not working? What are the key pain points that my customers have got? And as I mentioned earlier, empower your teams, frontline teams, to fix and act on the spot. Try and find out things that would, give some nice pleasant surprises to your customers. It's like how you test software, A/B testing. So you need to test, build on it, but build one, two. Don't try and build 30. Learn, develop, and then go for the next one. As a long-term plan, it's got to be embedded. Customer centricity has got to be embedded in your culture. Have clear KPIs and have clear training for everyone, even if they are not a customer-facing person, to put customer at the center of anything that they do. Because they are definitely, if you are not customer facing, as I mentioned earlier, you could be supporting someone who could be supporting someone to support the customers. But you have to look at your support that you provide as your internal customer. Because without that, the chain is going to break. So you need to build that culture and ensure that it happens. What we normally do is we get people from different departments, form teams to understand the journey, the emotional journey when data is collected and analyzed, so that the solutions that are generated or created, everyone understands why the solutions have come into place. Last but not least, I would say personalize at scale, retain that human touch, and just focus on measuring the quality of relationships, not just transactions. So we are right on time. So if you've got any questions, happy to take it. And next week, I have deliberately not put this, is because that's week 13, where we will be summarizing all the conversations and coming up with a 40-point checklist as to what you can do to enhance your organization's productivity through customers, through culture, through strategy, and through people. You have any questions?